Above the world creators stand. In the phenomenon, see its mystic source. These heed not the deceiving outward play. They turn not to the moment's busy tramp, but listen with the still patience of the unborn for the slow footsteps of far destiny, approaching through huge distances of time, unmarked by the eye that sees effect and cause, unheard mid the clamor of the human plain. So this is very, very important to know about these world creators, these gods that stand above the world. And they see the phenomenon in this mystic source. But they do not heed this deceiving outward play, this deceiving, this misleading outward play. And they don't even turn to the busy tramp of the moment. You know what a tramp is? It's a firm, heavy, resounding tread. It's a journey, often a long journey on foot, a march, in fact. So they turn not to that moment's busy tramp. They don't heed the deceiving outward play because they see the mystic force of this world creation in the phenomena, but they see it from above the world. Very, very important. And they listen with the still patience of the unborn. Someone could read what Sri Aurobindo says on the unborn because it's extremely important and relevant here. He capitalizes the word unborn. Who can read that for me? Anyone? Do you have the lexicon?
I have the lexicon.
Okay, wonderful.
I just have to find the word.
Okay, I have it under number 400.
By attaining to the unborn beyond all becoming, we are liberated from the slower birth and death. By accepting the becoming freely as the divine, we invade mortality with the immortal beatitude and become luminous centers of its conscious self-expression in humanity, the life divine.
Well, he says it all, doesn't he? He says that if we can attain to the unborn, that is beyond all becoming, we become liberated from the lower birth and death. And if we accept even the becoming freely as the divine, then into our mortality, we bring the immortal beatitude. And therefore we become luminous centers of this self-conscious self-expression in humanity. Next, Nilesh.
And end have these bodies of an embodied soul that is eternal. It is not born, nor dies, nor is it that having been, it will not be again. It is unborn, ancient, everlasting. It is not slain with the slaying of the body. As a man casts from him his worn-out garments and takes others that are new, so the embodied being casts off its bodies and joins itself to others that are new. Certain is the death of that which is born, and certain is the birth of that which dies.
And we see here that he explains this very clearly when he speaks of death. He says it in Savitri, as if this god throws off its cloak. And here we just have to cast out our worn out garments, which are the bodies. Mother says that if we were plastic enough not to be able to change at the speed that our psychic being and consciousness is changing, we would not have to throw out our bodies. We would not have to die. But because the body is still so rigid, we have to leave it. Otherwise, there's no possibility of greater progress into the supramental eventually. But whatever dies is not dead, but is certainly reborn. Next one, Nilisha from Letters on Yoga.
The Jivatma is for me the unborn who presides over the individual being and its developments, associated with it, but above it and them, and who, by the very nature of his existence, knows himself as universal and transcendent no less than individual, and feels the divine to be his origin, the truth of his being, the master of his nature, the very stuff of his existence.
I feel that in our higher selves, we often have this experience that we know ourselves to be more than this body and this small mind, that we know ourselves in some way as universal and transcendent, while we also are aware that we are individual. But we feel the divine to be our origin, and we feel this is the truth of his being, the master of his nature, the very stuff of his existence. We can feel that. It takes moments of deep calm and silence when we allow nothing to enter into this brain that we can feel this. So the last Letters on Yoga.
It is necessary to understand clearly the difference between the evolving soul, psychic being, and the pure Atman, self or spirit. The pure self is unborn, does not pass through death or birth, is independent of birth or body, mind or life, or this manifested nature.
Vladimir, could you speak a little bit on the Atman, a little bit more thoroughly?
Yeah. So, well, it's taken from the Indian philosophy, of course, Atman and Antaratman and Jivatman. Yes, these two. Jivatman is the one who is presiding over Purusha, the witness, who is never involved, but who is attending to the movements of Prakriti, so to say. He is witnessing her movements. And when he's witnessing, she is very happy to do anything to satisfy Purusha. She wants to satisfy him because she is his Shakti. She is his nature, his power. And so whatever she does it only for his sake, as it were. And he attends to that. And then Sri Aurobindo says, in the next stage, he becomes more Anumanta. Anumanta means the one who gives the sanctions. It seems that she's looking for his sanction every time. So not that she's doing by herself and he's witnessing whatever she does, but there is the deeper involvement. He's constantly sanctioning her movements, and She's happy to do it when he says yes, and when he says no, she drops the movement. Even if she is attached to it and she put a lot of energy into it already, she may drop it. And that's what we see in the world, and we are surprised that nature was doing this and then suddenly she stopped and started something else. Maybe there was no sanction to continue or to do it that way. So because he is constantly there sanctioning every moment. And then finally he becomes Ishvara, and he takes into his hands all the nature, and she becomes his Shakti. And there is no more difference between Purusha and Prakriti. So that would be the union of Jivatma with Antaratma, total unity, where there will be no difference anymore.
We have a very specific example in the lives of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. When Mother comes down to Sri Aurobindo and she says to him, I have the power of the word. And Sri Aurobindo says to her, we don't want that. We want the highest. And Mother drops it. Imagine having the power of the word. He says to Mother, you would create a great religion, and you would be revered throughout the world. Mother drops it all because he says we don't want that. So, Nilisha, the last quote from the essays on the Gita.
The divine is the unborn eternal who has no origin. There is and can be nothing before him from which he proceeds, because he is one and timeless and absolute.
So these world creators, again, who don't heed this deceiving outward play, they don't turn to the moment's busy tramp, which is our lives, and they listen with the still patience of the unborn. For what? For the slow footsteps of far destiny. Oh, approaching through long distances of time, unmarked by the eye that sees effect and cause, unheard mid the clamor of the human plain. Now, we have, I think, gone through time previously. I don't know that we have done destiny. Does someone have the...
We didn't do.
We did not do it, no. Does someone have the lexicon who could read from it other than Nilisha, or we'll ask Nilisha again? If any of you would like the lexicon, because you are so totally involved in our Savitri Sundays, I can send it to you if you send me your email. And I have a little sheet that gives any of the words and the pages, so you don't have to look through page after page to find it. You can just go to that page. So after this or in next week, if you're interested, I'll be very happy to send that to you. So Nilisha, if you would read Destiny to us, because these slow footsteps of far destiny are so important.
Destiny in the rigid sense applies only to the outer being, so long as it lives in the ignorance. What we call destiny is only, in fact, the result of the present condition of the being and the nature and energies it has accumulated in the past, acting on each other and determining the present attempts and their future results. But as soon as one enters the path of spiritual life, this old predetermined destiny begins to recede. There comes in a new factor, the divine grace. the help of a higher divine force other than the force of karma, which can lift the sadhak beyond the present possibilities of his nature. One's spiritual destiny is then the divine election which ensures the future. Letters on Yoga.
Yes, it's very clear, isn't it? Huh? That the divine grace, of course, can overcome karma and can actually determine the present attempts and future results. And it can lift us even beyond the present possibilities of our nature. One thing I can tell you, that Mother saw what we call Trikala Drishti in each of us. She saw our past, she saw our present as we faced her, and she saw the possibilities of our future. And I knew that the moment I saw her. I saw such power in her. And her eyes were so filled with love. But she has not at all left us. She is working even more powerfully now. If some of you have seen my Facebook page, you will see what she has written about this, about these, what shall we say, these other threats that even in nature that go on and harass us. And she says there comes a moment when the divine says, no more. And he wipes it out. So please continue, Nilisha, because we have very, very important words here.
The spiritual destiny always stands. It may be delayed or seem to be lost for a time, but it is never abolished.
We therefore can know that whatever our problems, whatever our difficulties, when we have accepted this yoga, this integral yoga, even our destiny that for a time is never abolished. And Sri Aurobindo says all of us will get to the end, into the new world, the new consciousness, and the supermind. Last one.
Actually, it is reminding me about a very interesting thing which we just discussed before about the witness and Purushan Prakriti, how he becomes, from Sakshi, he becomes Anumanta, the sanctioner. This is the spiritual destiny. When we become aware of unborn self in us, then we get the sanctions. So then we can be aware that he may change anything in Prakriti the way he wants. And that is kind of changing the whole karmic, consequential way of being. Yeah? So.
Yes. I love that point where he says that even if the divine says we cannot change something and we have to go through it, he puts a check in our credit page. That's wonderful. Okay, the last one, Nilisha.
Each person follows in the world his own line of destiny, which is determined by his own nature and actions. The meaning and necessity of what happens in a particular life cannot be understood except in the light of the whole course of many lives. But this can be seen by those who can get beyond the ordinary mind and feelings and see things as a whole, that even errors, misfortunes, calamities are steps in the journey. The soul gathering experience as it passes through and beyond them until it is ripe for the transition which will carry it beyond these things to a higher consciousness and higher life.
So, these slow footsteps of far destiny approaching through huge distances of time, unmarked by the eye that sees effect and cause. And effect and cause, we usually say it's cause and effect. But Sri Aurobindo shows us that it is really effect and the cause that has created this effect. And this is a relationship between actions or events such that one or more are the result of the other or the others. So, I quoted often these funny people in Texas who say, what goes around comes around. And that's their definition of karma. So here we are, unmarked by the idea that sees effect and cause, unheard mid the clamor of the human plane. We can certainly say that the human plane is a clamor. And the best way to define clamor is a loud uproar, as from a crowd of people. And it can be an expression also of collective feeling or outrage. But it is a loud and persistent noise. This is clamor. Now, we can go on just a little bit more. Vladimir, you can tell us if we've done truth. We might have to take that up next week.
We did a little, yes, on truth.
Truth.
But
Okay.
we can do again, yeah.
Okay. Unheard mid the clamor of the human plane. Full stop. Attentive to an unseen truth, they seize a sound as of invisible augur wings, voices of an unplumbed significance, mutterings that brood in the core of matter's sleep. We'll go over truth and we'll go over other definitions, but these brief definitions I'd like to give you right now. So they are attentive to an unseen truth, and they seize this sound as of invisible augur wings. Well, the word augur is very, very, very interesting because it has to do with those people who were soothsayers or diviners or prophets, and they could foresee or foretell the future. Sri Aurobindo uses the word augur here as an adjective, augur wings. So these are foretelling wings. A sound is of these invisible augur wings, voices of an unplumbed significance. Well, unplumbed here is very interesting. It's unsounded or unfathomed. The word comes from the word plumb. And plumb, that's P-L-U-M-B, they used to test the depth of the sea with plumb lines. And they would put sounding leads, a piece of lead, at the end of a cord or a rope and drop it down. And that way they could measure the depth of the sea where they were. So here we have an unplumbed significance, an unsounded or an unfathomed significance, which also means that it's not understood or explored in depth as an idea, a theory, a feeling, or an experience. And then he says, mutterings that brood in the core of matter's sleep. And these things that brood, they think deeply on, they meditate upon. We have almost used our time, and I would ask Varsha if you would read all of the lines today. that we've covered.
Above the world creators stand, in the phenomena see its mystic source. These heed not the deceiving outward play, they turn not to the moment's busy tramp, but listen with the still patience of the unborn. For the slow footsteps of far destiny, approaching through huge distances of time, unmarked by the eye that sees effect and cause, unheard mid the clamour of the human plain. Attentive to an unseen truth they seize, a sound as of invisible augur wings, voices of an unplumbed significance, mutterings that brood in the core of matter's sleep.
Good reading. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining this Savitri Sunday.
Thank you, Narad.
Thank you, Narad. Thank you, Vladimir.
Namaste.
Namaste.